Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Wellbeing Training Academy podcast, the place where we talk about creating healthier, happier, and more emotionally intelligent workplaces. I'm Abby Twomlow, psychologist, anxiety specialist, and someone who cares about helping leaders to understand that mental health is more than just a nice to have.
Hi, and I'm Andrew Farquharson, and I'm all of those things that Abby mentioned.
So, today we're going to be talking about something that's often talked about, but is very rarely done well, and that is how leaders can actively support their team's mental health. Um, and it's not about turning managers into therapists because that's not what you're there for, but it is about equipping leaders with practical tools and creating psychological safety in the workplace, really, which is something we talked about last time. Making a workplace that reduces stress and also build a workplace where people can be happy and that's good for people's mental health.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not something that's nice to have, and it's not some sort of soft, fluffy thing and asking somebody, "How are you today?" type of idea. It's really important. It's important for obviously for the individuals. It's important for the business in terms of productivity and ultimately any profits, etc. It's a real issue. There's pressure on people, juggling deadlines, getting a lot of work, or even things like bullying or so on. Staff retention is another issue that is involved in this area. Plus the fact it's actually a statutory duty to look after people under the Health and Safety at Work Act. Um, Most people tend to think that the health part of the Health and Safety at Work Act is just physical. But no, it's about mental health as well, and that's an equal part of it. But we'll come to that later.
Yeah, I think when we talk about leadership in terms of mental health, it's really easy to just jump straight to the policies, isn't it, and well-being initiatives and things. But just because you've got a policy in place doesn't mean anything really. And just because you might have some really lovely well-being initiatives like free access to the gym or yoga sessions or a bowl of fruit in the staff room. Even the employee assistance programs, phone numbers on the back door in the staff room or on the back doors of the toilets. But the problem is the research shows us that the single biggest factor that affects somebody's well-being at work isn't any of those things. It's their relationship with their manager or their line manager. Because if you've got an employee that feels supported, trusted, listened to is a big one, then their stress levels go down, their engagement goes up, and their performance improves. And when they don't, that's when they start to feel criticised, ignored, and the opposite happens.
That's exactly right. The most important person in your team from a well-being point of view is the leader or the manager. The reason why that's important is not because of the leader or the manager, it's what happens is that the team takes their cue from the leadership. It also is affected by how the leader or the manager reacts or works. So the team leader should really act by you're an example. You lead by example. The most powerful tool you could say is your own behavior, the leader's behavior. Um, so if you're a leader that likes to send emails at 11 o'clock at night or boasting about, well, actually, I don't take leave, I just carry on working all the time or something like that, you're implicitly telling your team that those sorts of things are expected from you. I'm just going to put a tip in there to get us started. And that is set some healthy boundaries that you show. Okay. So, and an example might be of that within your group, within a team, is that you can say, right, actually, from 1 till 2, I'm turning everything off. Nobody contact me, anything like that. I'm going out for a walk. Um, I'm just going to just be, to be completely offline, if you like. And what that then shows is it's okay for you as an employee to have time to yourself to recharge a bit, just to relax, because that's really quite important to do that. In fact, it's a strategic necessity. It's not a sign of weakness. What you're doing as a leader is you're leading by example.
Yeah, and it's it's like you say, it's not about having to be a psychologist to make a difference. It's about being a human being, isn't it? That cares. And we've talked about this before, but just, being someone that's aware, that has empathy, and that is considerate, really. And all that creates that psychological safety, which we did touch on last week. But if you didn't see that, let me just recap. Um, because I think it's one of the most powerful concepts in the workplace, and it's a term that's been bandied about a lot at the moment. It's a bit of a buzzword, isn't it, this psychological safety? And it's a phrase that was coined by a Harvard researcher called Amy Edmondson. And psychological safety is the belief that you can speak up, make mistakes, share ideas without any fear of being judged or punished or shamed in any way. So in a psychologically safe team or a psychologically safe environment, people are always going to be more creative, more honest, more collaborative because they're not afraid to fail. They feel like they can learn from mistakes, that they can work together as a team. And like you say, one of the best ways of doing that is to model those things as a leader, model that vulnerability, um, respond calmly, invite input, ask the right questions, ask open-ended questions, recognizing effort, not results, because people need to feel seen and heard in their job, even when the outcome isn't ideal, because that's work life, isn't it? It doesn't always go smoothly. And if you're if you feel strong and supported, if psychological safety is strong within that business, then everything else is easier. So communication is better, productivity is better, and mental health is better because you're not creating stress, you're not creating worry or fear or panic in people. Those things are eradicated and they can feel better supported.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The other thing is that it's very, you might say, well, actually, I do things about well-being, and just asking how people are and so on. But actually, it's very easy if you just ask, how are you? To say, oh, I'm fine. Because especially if the climate of the office or the workplace is not conducive to actually saying the truth, how things are. So perhaps you can go by it by, you could call it a compassionate inquiry. On a scale of 10, a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really energized and raring to go, or 1 being completely drained. Where do you think you are at the moment? And whatever they say is not a case of trying to fix somebody's life in that sense, if it's a low number. But you can say, well, is there anything we can do to help take something off your plate for the moment, this week, to help you to perhaps move up that scale? It's
Well,
about,
and like you say, modeling it yourself. So if you're asking that question, saying, "Oh, do you know what? In all honesty, I'm feeling it a 3 today. Like I didn't sleep very well. This has happened, or I've had this email." If you're modeling that yourself, especially when you're at the lower end of the scale, you're teaching people that that's okay, and you're normalizing that honesty about emotions as well, aren't you? Through
yeah.
modeling, because otherwise everybody just thinks that they're supposed to say 10. So.
Yes. Again, yeah, if everybody does say 10, then that causes lots of difficulties because some people would strive to do that. They can't do it. We're all human beings. We're not machines. We can't do the same thing all the time. Um, and that's really important to remember. And to move on a wee bit, you could then sort of ask if you want. if somebody's feeling the workload's quite a lot, or just ask the whole group, how do they think about the workload? On a scale of 1 to 10, use that. It's quite a good thing to do. I don't know, you could say anything less than 4 is the workload's really low. 4 to 6 might be optimal. 7 to 8, you're feeling a bit stretched. And 9 to 10 is really not sustainable. The thing is then, it gives you an idea, but you need to be able to have a workforce that feels confident enough to be able to say where they are on these scales and what they want to do.
I
So
think I think as well, one of the biggest frustrations that I find from employees and members of staff is that these wellbeing questionnaires and audits are sent out to them, and they're quite often anonymous, which is, that's good. But then they feel like nothing is ever done. It's done to tick a box. I've had people say to me, like, I've been really open and honest, and I've put what I thought, and nothing's changed, and I've had no feedback on it, and there's been nothing done about it. And this, one person in particular had even said it was anonymous, but I put my name in this comment saying I would like somebody to come and talk to me about this. And 12 months later, still nothing had been done about it, and it hadn't been addressed. So, doing these things for tick box purposes is pointless. If you're going to ask questions like that, you also need to respond well. And it's not about fixing people's mental health, but you are responsible as a leader for knowing your team, you know, signposting people if you need to. If you can see that there's an issue amongst a lot of staff, you need to be addressing that. Even if there's one member of staff that is saying, do you know what, I'm really struggling, putting out reminders to the whole team about signposting, pointing them in the right direction, or reminding them that there's an open door policy and they can come and talk to you, because your team needs to know who to talk to, how to get support, and to feel listened to and cared about. So, yeah, asking those questions, getting people to give you responses or wellbeing questionnaires, all those things, they're great in terms of you can tick a box saying you're doing them, but actually, what impact are they having if you're not doing anything about them?
the British Safety Council recently have done a big survey of lots of members and so on, both employers and employees. And the disconnect between what employers think they're doing and what employees experience is really quite alarming. I can't remember the exact figures, but it was something like 55% of employers, which is actually quite a low number, felt that they were doing work in well-being. So that meant that a lot of employers weren't doing work in the area of well-being. They've the 55% felt they were doing work. They got programs in place, they got policies in place, and so on. The workers of those people felt it was about 20% that actually recognized or felt that there was well-being stuff there for them. So it's exactly what you're saying there. And that's actually got a name. It's called well-being washing. There are some businesses that have every policy under the sun. And they can, we could go in there to do a well-being audit and they say, oh, we've got this, we've got this, we've got this. But the question is, how is it implemented? How do people know? It's useless. It's a bit like, I know I used this example last week, or I used an example of a car last week, but imagine, yeah, you know how to drive, but if you never get in the car, there's not much point in knowing how to drive. And that is one of the major problems, is the transition from having policies to actually making them useful and working. And if you think of it from a company's point of view, oh yeah, it's really nice to have all these policies and we've got them and we do all this tick box stuff. You're missing a real trick here, because if you implement them and make sure that they're working and the employees value it and understand it, etc., then you're not actually increasing the productivity of your company, and not therefore making the bottom line of the company what you want it to be. It's just silliness.
Well, like you say, it's not just having those things in place. How do you know if they're working? How do you measure the impact? We're constantly measuring in business, aren't we? We're measuring
Mm.
profit, we're measuring productivity, but how are you measuring these initiatives? How are you measuring your policy? How are you measuring whether having your bowl of fruit is making people feel better? And if you can't measure it, then it's not doing what you need it to do. Um, so yeah, it's just something to bear in mind. It needs to be something that's measurable as well. So I suppose let's recap because we've talked about a few different tools there, but
Yeah.
some of the tools that we can use or leaders can use to support their team are to build that psychological safety. And that is something that can be built and worked upon, um, including those leadership skills, how to be more empathetic, how to be a better listener, all those things that we're talking about. How to use emotional check-ins effectively, not just how are you, how are you feeling today, how to do that really well. Definitely modeling those boundaries and balance and being really clear about the boundaries for yourself so that people feel safe to do that. That builds on that psychological safety as well. Like you say, right, I'm going on my lunch break. I'll be back in an hour. I'm not going to be checking my emails. See you in a bit. If you're doing that, other people will feel safe to do that as well. And also know how to build on feedback. If you're asking for feedback, if you're asking for questionnaires, asking for measure of impact, then what? What are you doing about that? Are you signposting people to support? Are you putting things in place? Are you making sure those things that are working? And the reality is, like, none of these things cost a huge amount of money. They're not costing you billions of pounds. They're not complicated. A lot of it boils down to awareness, empathy, curiosity. Like, we're doing this thing, is it actually working? Are you curious about whether these things are working? And being consistent. Because if you can prioritize mental health and well-being, your team will do so much better. Your business will do so much better. And that's been proven time and time again. There is so much research on this. It's not our opinion. This is backed up by lots and lots of evidence, isn't it?
Come back to the figure that we quote quite a lot is 68 billion pounds lost in a year in the UK due to poor well-being of employees and so on. 68 billion pounds. I'll leave that there.
It's probably more than that, isn't it? If you're looking
Yeah.
at turnover, getting cover, if you're looking at minor sickness, people just off with illness, it's probably even more than that, really, is the reality. But that's quite difficult to measure, I suppose. But this is what we're here for. And we're here to help businesses develop emotionally intelligent leadership. We're here to provide mental health training for your workplace. If you want to find out more about what we do, please head to wellbeingtrainingacademy.com. We do lots and lots of one-off workshops. We do tailored courses. We offer long-term support as well. So yeah, for now, thank you for listening. And until next time, see you soon. Take care.
Bye bye. See you again soon.